They laughed when she walked into the room, not because she spoke, not because she interrupted, but because of how she looked. Overweight, nervous, holding a covered pot like it was the last thing she owned in this world. When the rancher finally noticed her and the crowd fell silent, she whispered something so small, so broken, it should have been ignored. Instead, his answer would shut every mouth in that room forever. Stay with me, because this story proves that sometimes the quietest offer carries the loudest truth. And before we begin, subscribe to the channel, because stories like this don't just entertain, they remind us who we are. The first thing people noticed about Clara Mayfield was her size, not her eyes, which were warm and intelligent, not her hands, which bore the marks of hard work, not her voice, which carried kindness even when she tried to hide it, just her weight. In the small frontier town of Dry Creek, that was enough to decide her worth before she ever opened her mouth. Dry Creek was the kind of place where rumors traveled faster than horses and judgments were passed quicker than mercy. People remember where you came from, who your parents were, and how well you fit into the narrow image they respected. Clara didn't fit. She had arrived 3 months earlier with a single trunk, a faded dress, and no family name anyone recognized. She rented a tiny room behind a general store and worked where she could, mostly doing laundry and cleaning kitchens for folks who never invited her to sit at the table. Children stared. Women whispered. Men smirked when they thought she wasn't listening. Clara learned to walk with her eyes down, her shoulders rounded, her presence small, even though her body could never be. What they didn't know was that Clara had once lived a very different life. Her father had been a cook for a riverboat company back east, and from the time she could stand on a stool, she had watched him turn scraps into miracles. Food, he told her, was a language, a way to speak when words failed. When he died suddenly of fever, Clara was left with his recipes, his tools, and a quiet belief that feeding people was the one thing she did better than anyone else. But cooking didn't make you respectable in Dry Creek. Marriage did. Money did. Beauty did. And Clara had none of those. The rancher everyone admired was named Thomas Hale. He owned the largest spread of land within 50 miles, a man known for his sharp eyes, sharp decisions, and even sharper boundaries. He was widowed, childless, and rarely attended social gatherings. When he did, people noticed. Men wanted his approval. Women wanted his attention. Everyone wanted a piece of his respect. So when word spread that Thomas Hale would be attending the harvest supper at the town hall, excitement buzzed through Dry Creek like electricity. Women planned their dresses weeks in advance. Men practiced their polite smiles. The supper was meant to celebrate a good season, but everyone knew it was also a chance to be seen. Clara wasn't invited. She only heard about it because Mrs. Dalloway, whose kitchen she cleaned twice a week, mentioned it while listing tasks. Clara listened quietly, nodding, folding towels. But inside her chest, something stirred. The harvest supper always included food prepared by the town's finest cooks. Clara knew she could cook better than any of them. She had never said that aloud. Pride had long been trained out of her, but the thought wouldn't leave her. That night, lying on her narrow bed, she made a decision that terrified her. She would cook something, not to impress, not to be noticed, but to offer, because offering was all she knew how to do. She spent nearly all her savings on ingredients: flour, butter, herbs, a cut of meat she could barely afford. She worked through the night in the borrowed kitchen behind the store, moving carefully, deliberately, as if her father stood beside her. She cooked a meal meant to comfort, not dazzle. Something honest, something warm. By the time the sun rose, her hands were sore, her back ached, and her heart pounded with doubt. She wrapped the dish carefully, covered it with a cloth, and stared at it for a long time. Then she picked it up and started walking toward the town hall. As soon as she stepped inside, laughter rippled through the room. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Smiles exchanged. Eyes flicked toward her and away again. Someone whispered something sharp enough to make another woman snort into her drink. Clara felt her face burn. She almost turned around. Almost. She found an empty space near the wall and set the dish down, standing beside it like a guard. No one approached. No one asked what she'd brought. The other tables were crowded, admired, praised. Her offering sat untouched. Then Thomas Hale arrived. The room shifted immediately. Conversations hushed. Chairs straightened. He moved with calm authority, tall and steady, his presence heavy without being loud. He greeted a few people with nods and brief words. His eyes scanned the room, assessing, measuring. They landed on Clara. He paused. Not long. Just enough. The whispers followed his gaze. More laughter, nervous now. Someone muttered, "What's she doing here?" Thomas took a few steps closer. Clara's heart slammed against her ribs. She hadn't planned this part. She hadn't planned anything beyond showing up. He stopped in front of her table, looked at the covered dish, then at her. "What's this?" he asked. The room went silent. Clara swallowed. Her voice came out barely louder than breath. "I know I don't belong here, sir. No one loves a fat girl. But I can cook. I thought maybe someone might want a meal." The words hung in the air, raw and exposed. Someone laughed. Another shook their head. A woman whispered, "How embarrassing." Thomas didn't smile. He didn't laugh. He didn't look away. Instead, he pulled out a chair and sat down. "You cooked this?" he asked. "Yes, sir." "Then uncover it." Hands trembling, Clara lifted the cloth. The aroma spread instantly. Rich, warm, undeniable. Conversation stopped for a different reason now. Heads turned. Noses lifted. Thomas took a bite. He chewed slowly, thoughtfully. Then he looked up. "This," he said clearly, "is the best thing I've eaten in 10 years. Silence crushed the room. He stood, lifted his plate, and raised his voice. This woman didn't come here to be admired. She came to offer something she made with care. And she did it while every one of you sat comfortably in judgment. If you're laughing, you're not worth feeding." No one spoke. Clara felt tears spill down her cheeks, not from shame this time, but from shock. People began lining up, slowly at first, then eagerly. The same mouths that mocked now praised. The same eyes that dismissed now studied her with curiosity. But Thomas wasn't finished. He returned the plate to her. "I run a ranch," he said, "and I need someone who understands food the way you do. If you're willing, I'll pay you fairly. And I won't ask you to shrink yourself for anyone." The offer stunned her. But it wasn't the job that changed everything. It was the way he said it. Like her value had never been in question. The next weeks transformed Clara's life. At the ranch, no one mocked her. The workers respected her, because Thomas did. Her meals brought people together. She learned that strength came in many shapes, and hers had been there all along. But Dry Creek wasn't done testing her. A rival rancher spread rumors. Said Thomas was being fooled. Said Clara was manipulating him. The town buzzed again, sharper this time. When Thomas confronted her about it, Clara expected the worst. She told him everything. Her past, her fears, her belief that she was only useful, never wanted. He listened. Then he said, "You think I hired you because I felt sorry for you? I hired you because you're exceptional. And exceptional people scare small minds." The final twist came months later, when Thomas hosted another supper. This time, Clara stood at the head of the table, not as a curiosity, not as a joke, but as the heart of the gathering. She didn't change her body. She didn't change her voice. She changed the room. And the people who once laughed learned something they would never forget. That worth isn't measured by size. It's measured by what you bring to the table, when no one expects anything from you. Before we end this story, tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching this video?